There's a moment in your journey where you realize your tight grip is the very thing keeping it away. You've visualized, you've affirmed, you've done everything right. And yet, it hasn't arrived. Why? Because the quantum field doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence. Detachment isn't a loss, it's a signal. A declaration that you trust the timing, the alignment, the higher intelligence that's already working behind the scenes. If it's meant for you, it will come when you beg for it, but when you align with it. And that shift changes everything. The illusion of control in manifestation. There's a silent tension most people feel in manifestation, the need to make it happen. We are taught to visualize, affirm, and act. But beneath all of it, many are still trying to control the outcome. The mind clings to timelines, results, and external validation. But in the quantum field, control is resistance. The more you grip, the less flow exists. True manifestation isn't about commanding reality. It's about aligning with it. And alignment begins with release, not control. Control masquerades as focus, but it's rooted in fear. When we're afraid it won't happen, we tighten our grip. We force action. We chase signs. We obsess over outcomes. But manifestation doesn't respond to fear, it responds to coherence. It responds to the vibration you carry when you feel safe, surrendered, and whole. The illusion is that your effort creates the result. In reality, your frequency does. The irony is, the more you try to control the path, the more disconnected you become from the energy that brings it to you. Control is a reaction to scarcity, the belief that if you don't push, it won't come. But energy is precise. It doesn't need to be bullied, it needs to be matched. When your inner world is calm, trusting, and clear, the outer world naturally reorganizes to reflect that. Many people manifest from the vibration of lack. I need this job. I must have this relationship. I can't be happy until this happens. They believe they're being intentional, but energetically, they're broadcasting fear, doubt, and unworthiness. Control keeps you fixated on what isn't here, while alignment tunes you into what already is. This is why most people block their own blessings. They're too busy trying to force what can only be received. The truth is, you don't need to chase your desire. You need to become the version of you who already lives it. That version doesn't beg, it doesn't cling, it knows. Control is rooted in survival. But manifestation is an act of spiritual trust. It's the decision to surrender your timeline and operate from belief rather than fear. You don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you're ready to receive. The illusion of control shows up in subtle ways: checking the clock, watching for signs, micromanaging every step. But none of that speeds up the process. In fact, it slows it down. Because every act of control reaffirms your inner doubt. If you truly believed it was yours, you wouldn't need to grip so tightly. Faith feels like ease. And ease is the highest frequency of receiving. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means stepping out of the way. It means trusting the field that responds not to your effort but your energy. When you stop asking, how will it happen, and start being the person it happens to, you shift timelines. You're not attracting from the outside in, you're creating from the inside out. That's the true quantum shift. Most people are addicted to control because it gives the illusion of safety. If I know what's next, I won't be hurt. If I do everything right, I'll get what I want. But manifestation isn't a contract, it's a conversation. You offer your frequency, the universe mirrors it back. That mirror doesn't respond to effort, it responds to essence. And essence is never loud. It's quiet. It's still. It's present. When you feel anxious, when you're constantly checking for signs or doubting the timing, you're not in alignment, you're in resistance. The quantum field responds to clarity, not chaos. To presence, not pressure. When your nervous system relaxes, your reality softens too. The leap happens not when you push harder, but when you finally stop pushing at all. You are not behind. You are not being punished. What you're waiting for is waiting for you to align. And that alignment comes from detaching, not because you don't care, but because you know it's already done. The universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to embodiment. Become the version of you who no longer waits. That version is magnetic. Control is an outdated pattern from a world built on survival. But you're not here to survive, you're here to create. And creation flows from trust, not tension, from knowing, not needing. Every time you feel the urge to control, pause, ask, what part of me still doesn't believe I'm supported? That's where the work is. Not in pushing, but in softening. The path unfolds not through control, but through coherence. You don't have to manipulate the timing or the how. The field knows. It already has the path mapped out. Your only job is to hold the vibration of your desired reality long enough for it to become visible. You don't create through force. You create through frequency stability. The most powerful manifestors aren't controlling, they're congruent. Their thoughts, emotions, and energy all say the same thing. I already have it, not because they're tricking the universe, but because they've chosen to live as if it's already true. That level of energetic consistency bends reality. That's when the impossible arrives without struggle. You don't have to chase alignment. You return to it. You quiet the noise. You feel into the version of you that doesn't need anything to change to feel fulfilled. That's when change begins. That's when the field responds not with resistance, but with resonance. You're not here to control manifestation. You're here to allow it. Surrender is not giving up. It's tuning in. Surrender is one of the most misunderstood aspects of manifestation. People often confuse it with quitting, giving up, or accepting defeat. But true surrender isn't rooted in passivity, it's an act of deep alignment. It's the moment you stop fighting the flow and start becoming one with it. Surrender says, I trust the process even when I can't predict the outcome. That's not weakness, it's inner mastery. It takes far more strength to release than to resist. When you surrender, you shift from chasing outcomes to embodying the energy that draws them in. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop bargaining with the universe. Instead, you begin to vibrate from a place of knowing. You no longer operate out of urgency or fear. You've moved into a frequency where peace becomes your compass. And in that peace, everything accelerates not because you're doing more, but because you've stopped blocking the flow. Surrender isn't letting go of the dream, it's letting go of the tension around the dream. It's the energetic unclenching that creates space for miracles to arrive. You detach not because you don't care, but because you finally believe it's already yours. You stop needing proof. You stop watching the clock. You stop micromanaging. And in that surrender, you collapse into timelines that only open when control dissolves. The field doesn't respond to desperate effort. It responds to clear intention matched with relaxed embodiment. That's the art of surrender. You set the vision, you align the energy, and then you release the grip. You don't force the flower to bloom, you become the environment where blooming is inevitable. The soil of surrender is fertile ground for quantum leaps. It's where the magic lives. In quantum terms, surrender is coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions match the signal of trust, the field mirrors back faster than logic can explain. But if your desire is laced with doubt, control, or fear, the field delays not to punish you, but to reflect where your signal is scattered. Surrender tunes your signal. It makes you magnetic without effort. That's how outcomes find you. The mind fears surrender because it equates it with powerlessness. But in truth, surrender is power in its highest form. It's choosing to believe in what you cannot yet see. It's daring to act from alignment rather than ego. When you surrender, you're not abandoning action. You're upgrading your intention behind it. You're no longer acting to force results. You're acting to stay in energetic truth. Surrender doesn't mean sitting still. It means moving with presence. It means allowing divine timing to unfold without rushing it. It's the difference between pushing water upstream and flowing with the current. You still show up. You still take aligned steps. But you release the anxiety of needing it to happen your way. And in that release, you make room for it to happen the right way. When you're truly surrendered, you don't obsess over signs. You become the sign. Your energy shifts, your clarity sharpens, and the universe starts moving pieces on your behalf. Things that felt stuck begin to dissolve. Doors open without force. That's the power of being tuned in instead of turned on by stress. Your frequency begins to lead, And where it leads, flow follows. Surrender is the portal between desire and embodiment. It's the sacred space where your trust becomes louder than your fear. Most people never reach this space because they're addicted to control. But when you surrender, you transcend survival mode. You step into co-creation. You begin to operate as someone who knows their reality is forming behind the scenes. The illusion of control is heavy. It keeps you in your head, doubting your worth, questioning your path. Surrender lightens that weight. It frees your nervous system to breathe. It tells your subconscious, we are safe now. And in safety, transformation blooms. That's why surrender is not a spiritual bypass, it's the frequency that heals the gap between where you are and where you're going. When you stop needing everything to happen now, things begin to shift faster. Why? Because you're no longer resisting with your energy. You're no longer sending mixed signals. You're no longer acting from lack. You're becoming a vibrational match to already having it. That's what tuning in really means. It's not about waiting for evidence, it's about broadcasting wholeness. So if you're in a season of uncertainty, stop trying to figure it all out. Close your eyes. Breathe. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to already be in alignment? That feeling is the gateway. That vibration is the frequency. And surrender is how you get there, not by controlling the outcome, but by becoming the version of you who no longer needs to. You block what you cling to. Clinging is a signal of scarcity. It says, I don't believe I can have more. It creates a grip so tight that energy can't move freely. And in the quantum field, movement is everything. What you hold on to with desperation sends out a frequency of fear, not trust. So even when you're focused on something you deeply want, your vibration says you don't believe it will stay. That contradiction slows everything down. When you cling to outcomes, you stop being magnetic and start being resistant. You begin to chase instead of attract. You begin to beg instead of embody. This subtle shift changes your entire signal in the field. The universe doesn't respond to what you're attached to, it responds to the state you're in while you're attached. Clinging is the energy of lack disguised as desire. We think holding tightly gives us control, but in reality, it reveals where we feel out of control. It exposes where trust has not yet landed in our system. And the truth is, what you're afraid to lose has already taken power over you. When you cling, you're telling the field you don't feel safe without it. And the field always mirrors that insecurity not as punishment, but as information. You block love when you demand it out of fear of being abandoned. You block abundance when you hoard it out of fear of losing it. You block growth when you try to control every detail. Clinging strangles the very thing you want to receive. It closes your hands when the field requires them to be open. Energy flows where trust lives. It pauses where fear clings. Freedom isn't found in forcing, it's found in releasing. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop trying to control every timeline. You start trusting that what's aligned will remain, and what's not will clear. Letting go isn't loss, it's space. And space is where the next chapter breathes itself into being. It's not emptiness, it's preparation. So many people cling because they believe effort equals worth. They think if they just try harder, hold on tighter, prove themselves louder, they'll finally earn it. But manifestation doesn't work like that. The field doesn't calculate effort, it responds to frequency. And the frequency of clinging always says, I don't have it. That becomes the echo in your reality. Attachment often shows up disguised as commitment. But there's a difference. Commitment moves from alignment. Attachment moves from fear. One is expansive. The other is heavy. You'll know which one you're in by how it feels in your body. Does it bring peace? Or does it create panic when it's not immediately visible? That's your clue. You don't need to force what's meant for you. You need to align with it and allow. Allowing isn't weak. It's deeply powerful. Because allowing says, I trust the unseen as much as the seen. And that trust opens the floodgates of possibility. The tighter you grip, the more narrow your path becomes. But the looser your hold, the wider the channel grows. Your need to cling often comes from past experiences where you felt abandoned, unseen, or overlooked. It's not your fault, but it is your work to heal. Because if you don't, you'll keep trying to secure the future using the wounds of the past, and that keeps you stuck in cycles that can't expand. Your energy becomes a repetition, not a renewal. Letting go doesn't mean you give up on the vision. It means you stop panicking in its absence. You begin to hold the desire with softness. You release the white-knuckle grip and instead breathe into belief. That belief becomes the frequency that invites more. Not because you need more to feel enough, but because you're finally vibrating from sufficiency. What you cling to owns you. It owns your thoughts. It shapes your choices. It filters your perception. And when something owns your vibration, it becomes your limitation. You stop being in flow and start being in fear. And fear can't create miracles, it can only recreate what's familiar. Letting go is how you break that loop. The field is neutral. It doesn't favor one person over another. It simply listens. And when your signal is coded in desperation, it reflects that back to you. The energy says, this person doesn't trust yet. This person still doubts their own alignment. So the result is delay not because the dream is wrong, but because the vibration is misaligned. The scariest part of letting go is the silence that follows. That space where nothing seems to be happening. That's where most people rush back into old habits. They mistake silence for failure. But silence is often the space of rearrangement. It's where the universe does its deepest work, without needing your constant input. If you've been clinging, forgive yourself. You were doing what you thought would protect the vision, but now you know better. Now you know that true safety comes from inner alignment, not outer force. And once you internalize that, you move into a space where everything feels lighter, not because the world changed, but because your energy did. The version of you who already has it, whatever it is, doesn't cling. That version knows their worth. That version trusts the timing. That version holds the vision but doesn't obsess. And that's the you the universe responds to. Not the frantic you, not the chasing you, but the version that has already decided they are worthy now. Every time you feel yourself clinging, pause and breathe. Ask, what am I afraid of losing? Then ask, what would the version of me who already has it do right now? That's your guide. That's your frequency check. The quantum field doesn't respond to fear, it responds to identity. And identity is shaped in your quiet choices. Don't confuse letting go with indifference. You're not detaching from the dream. You're detaching from the anxiety. That's the difference. You still show up. You still align. But you stop gripping. You start breathing. And you begin to walk through your day with the calm certainty that what's meant for you is magnetizing back. When you stop clinging, you start receiving. Not because things suddenly became available, but because you finally became available to them. Your vibration shifted. You cleared the static. And now the field can recognize you. That's what changes the game. Not more hustle, more harmony. You can't move forward while dragging old frequencies. And clinging is a heavy frequency. It's loud. It's chaotic. It disrupts intuition. But letting go clears the signal. It puts you back in touch with the part of you that always knew how to receive with grace. There's a deeper self within you that's already in alignment. That self doesn't chase. That self doesn't beg. That self doesn't panic. It listens. It trusts. It tunes in. And that's who you must embody if you want to stop blocking the very things you've been calling in. This isn't about becoming careless. It's about becoming clear. Clear in your identity. Clear in your energy. Clear in your trust. And once you're clear, you don't need to cling. You know, you act from that knowing. And that's the frequency the field collapses into form. So the next time you feel the urge to grip tighter, pause. Exhale. Soften. Remember, you block what you cling to, but you receive what you align with. Let that be your guide as you move forward, not in fear, but in quiet, energetic trust. The universe reads vibration, not desperation. The universe is not responding to your words. It's responding to your energy. You can affirm all day, visualize every morning, and script every desire, but if underneath it all you're vibrating from fear, lack, or desperation, the signal gets scrambled. You're saying, I trust, but the frequency says, I'm terrified. And in the quantum field, Vibration is truth. It bypasses language and listens only to resonance. Desperation is a distortion. It clings, it pushes, it begs, and begging never creates miracles, it creates more scarcity. It sends a signal to the universe that you believe you are without power, that you must hustle to be worthy. But the field doesn't speak hustle, it speaks harmony. And the moment you begin to trust your alignment more than your effort, everything starts to shift. Desperation feels heavy. It's full of tension, urgency, and doubt. Vibration feels light. It's steady, rooted, and calm. One tries to force the outcome. The other invites it. One says, "If I don't get this, I'll break." The other says, "I'm already Holland. What's meant for me is already finding me." That's the tone the universe understands. You can want something deeply, but wanting from alignment is different than wanting from panic. Panic narrows your energy. It shuts down your receiving. Alignment expands it. It says, "I'm open, I'm ready, and I trust." That trust is magnetic, not because of magic, but because of energetic truth. Coherence draws coherence. Think of your vibration like a broadcast tower. Every emotion, every thought, every belief is sending out a signal. And that signal is what the field reflects back. If you're vibrating desperation, the mirror of your life can only show more things to be desperate about, not because you're being punished, but because the field is always accurate. People often say, "But I'm doing all the right things, why isn't it working?" And the answer is simple. The energy behind your actions matters more than the actions themselves. If you're forcing every step, doubting every outcome, you're transmitting mixed signals. The universe can't collapse clarity from chaos. Aligned vibration doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It knows. It moves with intention. It breathes even when the outcome isn't visible. And in that breath, it becomes magnetic. Because the field recognizes consistency, not anxiety. You don't need to prove yourself to the universe. You need to remember who you are within it. Desperation says, "I'll only believe when I see proof." Vibration says, "I believe, and that belief is the proof." This is the quantum difference. It's not about pretending everything is okay when it's not. It's about choosing the energy that reflects who you truly are, not who fear wants you to be. That choice is frequency. Even when you feel unsure, the field responds to the version of you you're choosing to embody. If you choose to walk as if it's already happening, even when results are invisible, that's coherence. But if you walk with fear clouding every thought, the universe has no clear template to follow. The message gets diluted. Vibration doesn't come from saying, "I want." It comes from being the version of you who already knows they're worthy. That beingness is what the universe tunes into. Not your timeline, not your anxiety, but your alignment. It asks, "Who are you being?" Not, "What are you doing?" You'll know you're vibrating clearly when you no longer obsess over the outcome. You still care, but you don't panic. You still desire, but you don't chase. That emotional neutrality is powerful. It tells the field, "I'm ready to receive a no because I'm perfect, but because I'm aligned." You cannot manipulate the field with desperate energy. It sees past your performance. It senses your truth. If you feel unworthy, the vibration says it. If you feel broken, the field hears it. This doesn't mean you need to be flawless, it means you need to be honest. Feel the fear, but don't broadcast it as your identity. Every time you shift from, "I need this to feel safe," to, "I feel safe regardless," your frequency upgrades. You stop anchoring your worth in external outcomes. You start moving from internal truth. And that is the frequency of true manifestation. Not control, not demand, but embodied clarity. There is a version of you that doesn't beg, that doesn't chase, that doesn't shrink. That version knows who they are, and when you choose to live from that identity, the field responds accordingly. Not slowly, not eventually, but instantly, because energy always meets energy. Let go of the idea that struggle proves your worth. It doesn't. Your worth is inherent, and the universe doesn't reward suffering. It responds to resonance. So the real work is not to try harder, it's to align deeper. to become the signal that matches what you say you desire. When you're vibrating from trust, there's no tension in your chest. There's no grasping, no pushing, no trying to control every detail. Instead, there's presence. There's peace. And that peace is magnetic. It calls in people, opportunities, and realities that reflect it perfectly. Every desire you have already exists in the field, but your access to it depends on your vibration. The more you act from fear, the more the field reflects fear-shaped outcomes. The more you trust, the more the field opens. This is the science of alignment, not philosophy, but frequency. Desperation says, something's missing. Vibration says, I'm already whole. And the field reflects whichever one you commit to most. The outer world is a reflection not of your needs, but of your frequency. So when you shift the signal, you shift the entire mirror. Don't just visualize what you want vibrate as if it's already yours. Ask, how would I think, feel, walk, breathe if this already happened? Then begin to live from that place. That identity collapses timelines. That energy magnetizes futures. The universe doesn't require perfection. It requires clarity. And clarity isn't about knowing every step, it's about choosing the feeling state that matches your next chapter. When you embody that vibration long enough, the world around you has no choice but to reflect it. So if things feel blocked, don't just do more. Tune deeper. Ask yourself, am I vibrating from alignment or am I vibrating from fear? That one question can change your life. Because once you realign, everything begins to move. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped blocking it. And remember, the universe doesn't read your hope. It reads your coherence, not your desperation, your vibration. So choose it, embody it, be it before it arrives. That is the frequency of creation. And that is how you collapse reality. Stillness speaks loudly to the quantum field. Stillness is not silence. It's not passivity. It's power raw, undiluted presence that communicates with the quantum field more clearly than 1,000 frantic actions. In stillness, the noise of the ego fades, and the frequency of your true self begins to hum louder. This hum is what the universe listens to, not your rushing, not your chasing your being. The quantum field doesn't respond to how much you do. It responds to how deeply you are. And stillness is the sacred state where your energy aligns with the signal of your higher timeline. It's the pause between breaths, where truth emerges. In a world that worships hustle, stillness is a radical transmission of trust. You don't manifest by running toward your desire in panic. You manifest by becoming the version of you that no longer needs to grasp. Stillness is the embodiment of, I am enough right now. It's not weakness, it's magnetism. In the quiet, your frequency stabilizes, and in that stability, the field begins to organize around you. Stillness is not inaction, it's intentional non-reaction. It's the moment you stop outsourcing your power to outcomes and reclaim it inwardly. In that moment, your vibration becomes clean, uncluttered, coherent. That coherence is the clearest prayer you can send to the universe, and it doesn't require words, just resonance. The mind screams, the ego plans, but the soul whispers in stillness. And when you listen, you begin to hear the instructions written into your own energy. These instructions don't come with logic, they come with feeling. And when you feel the truth of who you are, you begin to collapse the reality that reflects it. Most people avoid stillness because it confronts them with themselves. But what if that confrontation is the portal? What if the thing you're avoiding is the doorway to the version of you that already has the life you're calling in? The quantum field doesn't need your perfection, it needs your alignment. And alignment happens in the quiet. In the quantum world, observation creates reality. But not just any observation, conscious, present, still awareness. When you're in stillness, you're observing without distortion. You're no longer projecting fear, doubt, or control. You're witnessing, and that witnessing is a signal the field recognizes as truth. Stillness is not the absence of action. It is the birthplace of aligned action. From stillness, you don't guess you know. You don't react. You respond. The difference may seem small on the surface, but energetically, It changes everything. One builds from fear, the other from wisdom. The field knows the difference. You've been taught to hustle, to chase, to prove. But the version of you who already lives your dream life doesn't hustle to earn it, they vibrate to match it. Stillness helps you remember that. It calibrates your nervous system to the frequency of trust. And in trust, the universe can finally deliver what it's been holding for you. Stillness recalibrates your signal. It lets your body, mind, and spirit unify into a single broadcast. I am aligned. And that frequency speaks louder than ambition. It tells the field, I no longer need to force. I choose to flow. And flow isn't lazy, it's precise. It moves only when the energy says move. In the stillness, you begin to feel what is true and what is noise. You realize how many of your desires were actually survival strategies. You realize how much of your effort was fueled by fear, and you begin to strip away the layers that never belonged to you. This is what makes you magnetic, not effort, but essence. The universe mirrors your being, and in stillness, you meet your being without performance, without needing to fix, impress, or strive. You return to your center, and from that center, reality reorganizes. Stillness doesn't delay your manifestation, it accelerates it. Because the signal becomes pure. Every quantum leap is preceded by a moment of stillness, a pause, a breath, a surrender. This is where you collapse timelines not through chaos, but through calm. When you become the eye of the storm, the field aligns with your center, not your storm. And that shift changes everything. In stillness, you no longer seek external confirmation. You become the confirmation. Your vibration becomes the proof. And that proof ripples through your field, drawing in what matches. No longer begging, no longer proving, just being and letting the field echo that truth. Stillness teaches you the difference between control and command. Control is frantic, command is calm. Control shouts, command whispers with certainty. In the quantum field, command is clarity. And clarity collapses possibility into form. The clearer your energy, the faster it manifests. You are not here to chase alignment. You are here to choose it. And stillness is the moment you make that choice. Not loudly, but energetically. Not publicly, but internally. This choice tells the field, I am now broadcasting a new reality. And the field listens, always, to consistency over volume. Stillness helps you disconnect from collective noise. From the pressure to compare, compete, or catch up. It returns you to your original frequency. And that frequency is what the universe recognizes, not the noise, not the effort, not the doubt, just the pure note of your true signal. There's a reason monks meditate in silence. A reason the most powerful rituals begin with a pause. Because stillness opens the channel between you and the field. It's not empty, it's sacred. And in that sacred space, manifestation becomes less about making something happen and more about allowing what's already aligned to appear. You can only hear your intuition in stillness. You can only feel your truth when the noise dies down. And when you do, the decisions you make carry frequency. The way you speak shifts. The way you move through your day changes. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're finally attuned. Stillness is a teacher. It reveals your attachments, your fears, your patterns, but it also reveals your power. When you stay long enough in stillness, you realize you don't need anything external to validate your next move. Your frequency is enough, and that's what shifts the grid. Let the world rush. Let others chase. You stay still, not out of inaction, but from deep inner command. That stillness is not weakness, it's precision. It's the space where quantum choices are made, where futures are summoned, where the next version of you is anchored. So the next time life gets loud, don't add more noise. Get still. Tune in. Drop into your core, because the universe isn't moved by panic. It's moved by precision. And stillness is the most precise signal of all. It says, I remember who I am. And the field always responds to that remembrance. If you let it go, it can flow. Letting go is not about giving up. It's about releasing the grip of fear, control, and expectation so that life can finally move with you, not against you. The tighter you hold on, the more resistance you create. The moment you loosen your grip, energy begins to breathe again. This is the paradox. When you release the outcome, you invite miracles. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally trust. So many hold on because they're afraid of emptiness. But letting go creates space. And in that space, flow enters. Your clenched fists block the very thing you desire. Your willingness to open your palms is what allows it to arrive. The universe is responsive, not resistant. But it cannot send a river to a dam. It flows where it's welcomed, not where it's controlled. Letting go is a message to the field. I no longer need to force. And that signal is potent. It tells the quantum grid that you're ready to receive a no from need, but from alignment. Force carries distortion, flow carries harmony. And the moment you align, what once felt stuck begins to move on its own. Control feels safe to the ego, but it's poison to your energy. Control tightens your frequency. It signals lack, fear, desperation. Flow signals faith, softness, readiness. You don't flow by pushing harder, you flow by allowing. And allowing is a practice, not a moment. You choose it again and again until it becomes your new default. Many people confuse letting go with losing. But you're not losing anything real when you let go. You're releasing what's false, what's heavy, what no longer matches the version of you you're becoming. The truth is, what's meant for you won't need to be held so tightly. It will stay because it's aligned, not because it's trapped. Letting go recalibrates your vibration. It returns you to trust. And in trust, the universe begins to show up in new ways that logic could never plan. That relationship, that opportunity, that breakthrough, it's not delayed. It's just waiting for the moment you stop blocking it with your fear. You don't flow by fixing. You flow by freeing. Fixing assumes something is broken. Flow knows everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Stillness, surrender, openness, these are the doorways. But you must walk through them without needing to know what's on the other side. That's what real letting go is. Letting go is releasing the identity that says you must earn love, chase validation, or force your path. That identity was built in survival. Flow is born in safety. And you create safety not by controlling the world, but by anchoring in the truth that you are held, even when things seem uncertain. Every time you let go, even just a little, the quantum field receives a new frequency from you, one of trust, one of readiness. And from that frequency, new timelines can form. New potentials begin to activate. This is how the shift happens, not in panic, but in peace. It's scary to let go of what you know, even if it's hurting you, but staying stuck is scarier. Flow requires you to believe there's something better beyond the known, and that belief becomes your bridge. If you try to carry the old into the new, you'll feel resistance. Release it, and the road becomes smooth. You can't move forward when you're dragging the weight of outdated attachments. Old stories, outgrown roles, unspoken fears. Letting go is choosing not to carry what no longer belongs. And the moment you choose that, your pace quickens, your energy lightens, and the current begins to guide you. You don't need to beg the universe for signs. You just need to stop blocking the ones that are already there. Letting go tunes your awareness. Suddenly, synchronicities become clear. The right people appear. The right ideas come. Not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned. Flow doesn't mean life is always easy. It means you're no longer at war with it. You stop resisting what is, and you start dancing with what's unfolding. That shift creates momentum. Not the kind that exhausts you, but the kind that carries you with grace. Letting go is not a one-time event. It's a practice of energetic hygiene. You cleanse your field. You declutter your mind. You release the grip again and again until it becomes natural. Until your nervous system learns that safety doesn't come from control, it comes from coherence. When you cling to something, you attach meaning that may no longer be true. If I let go, I'll lose everything. But the truth is, if you don't let go, you might miss what's trying to arrive. Release creates room. And that room is what flow needs in order to enter your life. You can't fake flow. The universe knows when you're pretending to let go while still holding tension underneath. True letting go is full body, full heart surrender. And it's that surrender that sends a clean, clear signal into the field. I'm no longer operating from fear. I'm open. There's wisdom in your body. It knows when something is forcing. It knows when you're pushing out of alignment. Listen. Pay attention to the tension in your chest, the clenching in your jaw, the fatigue in your bones. These are not random, they're signals that it's time to release. Letting go is how you reset your timeline. When you stop rehearsing old pain and start embodying new belief, the timeline begins to shift. Not because you demanded it, but because you became the version of you that no longer matches the old pattern. That's how flow begins. In the quantum realm, energy responds to clarity. Letting go brings clarity. It dissolves distortion. It strips away the noise of your overthinking and leaves only the signal of truth. That signal is pure, and purity collapses potential into form faster than effort ever could. It's not your job to figure out how everything unfolds. Your job is to become the energetic match. Letting go frees you to do exactly that. It removes the static from your channel and lets the broadcast of your soul come through. That broadcast is what shapes your future. You are not behind. You're not late. You're just learning to release what was never yours to carry. The moment you stop dragging the past forward, you move at the speed of your soul. That speed is not rush, it's resonant, and resonance is what draws reality to you. So, if you're tired of chasing, pause. If you're stuck in a loop, breathe. And if you're clinging to what's crumbling, let go. Not because you're weak, but because you're ready. Ready to trust, ready to align, ready to let the current carry you into a life that flows because you finally stopped resisting it. You're not losing it. You're making space for it. You may feel like everything is falling apart, like pieces of you are being stripped away one by one. But what if you're not losing anything real? What if you're just shedding the weight you were never meant to carry into the next version of your life? In the quantum field, subtraction is often expansion in disguise. What feels like a breakdown is actually a clearing, a sacred dismantling of what no longer fits. We are conditioned to equate loss with pain, with lack, with failure. But in truth, loss is often the doorway to alignment. The universe does not remove what is aligned. It removes what blocks flow. When people, patterns, or paths fall away, it is not punishment. It's preparation. Something deeper is unfolding, but for it to enter, space must be made. Energy needs room to circulate. Vibrations need space to shift. When your inner world is filled with noise, old beliefs, and outdated emotions, new frequencies can't land. The clearing you're experiencing is not an ending. It's an energetic reconfiguration. Your system is recalibrating to hold more light, more power, more clarity. It's natural to grieve what is leaving. But remember, grief and growth can coexist. You are not required to pretend you're fine. Letting go can hurt, even when it's right. But pain is not a signal to stop, it's a sign that something deep is being released. Your nervous system is learning to trust emptiness as a phase of becoming. Sometimes, the universe has to empty your hands before it can fill them. The version of you who clings cannot receive. But the version who surrenders, who opens, she becomes magnetic. You are not being punished. You are being shaped. Emptiness is not the absence of value. It's the space in which value can finally enter. You are not unraveling, you are being remade. The old identity, the roles, the attachments, they're dissolving to make room for truth. You've outgrown the disguise of safety. The universe knows who you are becoming, even if you don't yet. And it's guiding you through the fire to strip away all that is false. Making space looks like confusion sometimes. It looks like silence. It looks like losing your appetite for things that once excited you. That's not regression, it's realignment. The soil is being tilled so new seeds can be planted. But before anything blooms, the ground must first be cleared. You're not meant to carry it all. That weight you feel isn't strength, it's stagnation. Release isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And every time you let something go, even if just in thought, you signal the field that you're ready to evolve. Not everything that was with you can walk with you into the next frequency. Letting go of what once defined you feels like death, and in a way, it is. but it's the death of illusion, the death of limitation, the death of delay. You are not here to repeat timelines. You are here to collapse new ones, and that requires room, not just externally, but in your energy, your identity, your belief system. You are being invited into a higher timeline, and that timeline cannot support what you've outgrown. The friends who no longer resonate, the habits that drain your spark, the doubts that cling like fog, all of these must dissolve. Not because you're being punished, but because you're being upgraded. It's okay to not have the next steps figured out. Space isn't a lack of direction. It's a recalibration of your internal compass. In the silence, your frequency is realigning. In the stillness, the field is rearranging around you. You don't need to chase clarity. You need to create space for it to land. Trust this emptiness. It is fertile. It is sacred. And though it may look like nothing is happening on the outside, everything is shifting beneath the surface. The energy of your life is preparing to move, but first, it needed to slow down. It needed to remove what distracts, so you can reconnect to what truly matters. When things fall away, your job is not to grip tighter. It's to breathe, to soften, to stay open. The more you cling, the more resistance you create. But the more you release, the more momentum can build. Not from force, but from flow. The kind of flow that comes from full-body trust. You are not meant to live in the leftovers of your past self. There is a new expression of you that is ready to emerge, but it cannot be born in clutter. Emotional clutter, mental clutter, environmental clutter. The universe is asking you to clean your field because what's coming needs space. You're not being erased. You're being rewritten. This new chapter doesn't begin with addition. It begins with subtraction. The characters may change, the setting may shift, but the story is yours, and it's about to get clearer. Trust the plot twist. Let the chapter close. What you call loss, the field may call alignment. What you call confusion, the field may call redirection. Don't judge the transition by how it feels. Judge it by what it frees. If your heart feels lighter, even slightly, trust that. It means the release is working. Space is not just absence, it's capacity. You are being expanded. You are being stretched to hold more. And though it feels uncomfortable, it's a sacred discomfort. The kind that only arrives when something bigger is on its way. This is your energetic upgrade. You may look around and see nothing, but the field sees everything. It sees your willingness to let go, your courage to not cling, your bravery in the in-between, and it responds not to the noise, but to the signal that says, I'm ready for what matches who I truly am. Remember, everything you release is a vote for what you want to receive. Every surrender is a recalibration, and though you may not see the outcome yet, trust the process. Let the space stretch you. Let the silence soothe you. Let the unknown reintroduce you to your soul. The universe does not waste anything. It does not remove without replacing, but it does not fill what you refuse to empty. So clear the altar of your life, make space, and know you are not losing it. You are making room for something your old self could never have imagined. So if you're still holding on, still checking, still waiting, pause. Let go, not out of fear, but from faith. Detachment is not about giving up on what you want. It's about giving space for it to come in. In the quantum field, the moment you release control, you become magnetic. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally aligned. The universe doesn't rush, and neither should you. It delivers in divine timing to those who already feel whole without it. So trust the unseen, surrender the outcome, and watch what's meant for you arrive effortlessly.